And so let me just tell you guys, today I thought about this webinar, or not this webinar, but this meeting for the last couple of days. I've been sitting at a soccer tournament in a hotel room with two 12-year-old boys and a husband, and have had all kinds of great experience with emotions and irritation and anger and frustration and smells. And this, I mean, I've not been on a trip where we had an extra child and everyone smelled so bad sharing space. Let me just say, I don't know what happens to boys, but after the age of 11, they smell like men. So anyway, I had to I literally, when they all went down to play FIFA in one of the other soccer guys' rooms, I was like, I felt this flood of relief that I had some space to myself. So I was thinking about this emotion thing and how, it would be great if we had a way that I could come to you and say, all right, when someone's sad, this is how you deal with it. When someone is struggling with their spouse, this is how you deal with it, right? Wouldn't it be great if we had a template for how to handle emotions? And Claudia, I don't see Claudia on here, but she was the one that was asking, how do you handle emotions? How do you deal with the psychological emotions of your clients and not step into that, that psychiatrist role or the social worker, or, how do you get there with your clients? And I have to tell you that so many questions came up. What I do is when I think about these topics, I will literally have just a blank piece of paper. I love these yellow legal pads, and yes, I recycle, and I know we're killing trees, but I promise you I'm responsible. But I will literally get a piece of paper and I will just brainstorm things that come into my mind as I'm thinking about the topics. And what kept coming to me about how can I help people understand and work with clients on the emotional level was, how comfortable are you as a coach with your own emotions, with your own vulnerability? Okay, this is really important stuff here, because I used to be a person. I've always been highly sensitive. I've always been very emotional. I don't exactly wear them on my sleeve anymore, because when I'm with my clients, I have to practice some barriers, because I'm a sponge. Like if someone's sad, I'm sad. If someone's angry, I'm like, me too. I'm one of those people. But all of my life, I have always just felt deeply. Been a really deep, I see you holding up a book, Tracy. I've always been a deep feeler. But what I noticed about myself when I started working with clients was, even though I was a deep feeler and I was always comfortable crying and I was this or that, when people would start to cry in my sessions, I could feel myself kind of pulling back, and not in a way that I didn't want to be there for them, but in a way that made me, that I was like, I don't know how to handle this. This is someone else's emotions, right? So being comfortable with your own emotions, and then being in the presence of someone else in a one-on-one type of situation where someone may have some really strong feelings or strong emotions, is a totally different story. So one thing we have to think about is, first of all, how comfortable are we with our own emotions? Are we comfortable expressing ourselves and being vulnerable with others? Because if we are not in that space of feeling comfortable with vulnerability, then how can we expect our clients to be comfortable with being vulnerable with us, right? Does that make sense for you guys? I truly believe that when we sit across from someone and we're able to say, me too, and I've been there and I get it, or something that tells them that you've been in their space, then they're more like, oh, okay, good. And this is a good example of what this happened to me today. So I went to CrossFit this morning, and there was a girl there. She's, I mean, if I had her body, I would be like, hello. I mean, just gorgeous, beautiful. She had big green ponytail. She's a mom. She's one of those cute, trendy little late 20s girls. And, but she's got some issues, and she was kind of touching on speaking about them to me just a little bit today. And she said, I have some serious panic and anxiety issues. And I said, yeah, you know what? I work with people, and I think everyone does. It's just a matter of whether people admit it or not, to be honest with you. And then the floodgate opened. My husband and I are going through some serious problems. I don't know if we're going to come out of it. And then all of a sudden, this is during warm up, you guys, her story came at me. Now, had I not been through what I recently went through, and for those of you that don't know, it's a big, long story, so I'm not going to get into it, but just know that I had a very upsetting situation with my own spouse recently that had me borderline, talking divorce. He served me with papers. I turned around and counter-served. This is not long ago. I'm talking 2 months. where I felt my marriage was over, and I was sure of it. So I knew the fear and sadness. Her eyes were rolling. I could feel that feeling, but I felt it in a different way than I ever could have felt it before, because I was able to share with her my own story and my own vulnerability. And just to see the relief on her face that she was talking to someone who had been through something like that was amazing. Now, this is not a client, but this is a great way to practice in our daily lives when we are interacting with each other, if you feel safer that way, or you're interacting with people in your life. Can you get in the space with someone when they're expressing vulnerability, and can you be comfortable there? And if you don't feel that, then there is some resistance of your own to being vulnerable. Is this all making sense to you guys? Okay, yeah. Okay, thumbs up from Tracy. Awesome. Okay, so has anybody watched the little short 2-minute and 53-second video by Brene Brown on empathy? Okay, so Tracy's watched it. Nobody has. I'm going to share this today, and it's going to take 2 minutes, 53 seconds. I want you guys to watch it, because what's really important, and this was a game changer for me when I watched it, was what the difference is between empathy and sympathy, because it can really, really change your relationship with your clients and your friends and your family. But we're talking mainly about clients here today, but I think they're kind of interchangeable when we're talking about feelings and emotions, right? Our friends and family can be great practice for us. And what I realized when I watched this video, I even did a YouTube video on this for coaches, was that when I thought that I was being empathetic. I really thought I was being empathetic to a friend who'd lost her mother. And when I watched that video, I was like, oh my gosh. I even called her and said, I feel like I owe you an apology for not practicing proper empathy with you as your friend. And I am just deeply sorry. She didn't understand it, but as I talked through it, she became more aware. She was like, you know, that means a lot to me. It really does mean a lot to me that you understand now. So I walk with her in empathy all the time now. It's not been that long since she lost her mother. So is it okay with everybody if I share this video? Even if you've seen it, I think it's a great repeat. Someone, and let me check the chat real quick too. Yeah, Tracy's talking about the Empath Survival Guide. Read it. Kathy, you're sweet. Laura said, yeah, we watched it in my coaching program several times. Laura's saying it's the best video. So I think it's worth a share. So let me drag it over here from my other screen, and I'll do a share here in just 1 second. And let's see here if I can find it. All right. I just think it's awesome. I just think it's awesome. Okay, so here we go. Everybody see it okay? So miss it? Did it disappear? Sorry, it keeps switching, you guys.
Carmen, is there supposed to be sound?
Sorry?
We have no sound.
Right.
You don't have sound?
Nope.
What the heck? Hold on a minute. Kathy, tell me if you hear it. Now? Okay. Why is that not working? Keep yours unmuted, Kathy, and tell me real quick. I really want you guys to watch this.
Try your speaker there.
My speaker's, I mean, it's on.
Yeah.
Yep, it's on.
Hmm.
You know what? Darn it. I really wanted to watch this and have a conversation about it. I'll tell you what, let me just, I guess we can talk about it later. Oh, darn it. I don't know what's going on because it's working. I can hear it perfectly fine. I don't know why you guys can't. But let me share the link here, and then let's just have a conversation about it later. But I really want you guys to watch it because I feel like it can be a major, major game changer. And one of the reasons why I feel that way is because the way that we dialogue with someone, and when we talk to somebody, you know, in a sympathetic way, it doesn't come across as us understand. Like, even if we haven't been where they are, we can still be understanding. But to say to someone, you know, like to say to my friend who lost her mother, I'm so sorry. You know, oh, I understand. That would not be right. I've not lost my mother. So the empathy sympathy thing is really important for us to understand the difference between the two. So try to take time that you got the link in there, right, Kathy?
It looks like it. Somebody just made a point that maybe it's because you have your earbuds plugged in.
Oh, okay. Let me try that one more. We'll try one more time then. Hold on. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Now I can hardly hear you guys at all. Okay. We'll get it right. Just a minute. Try one more time.
Why is it
Can you hear it?
very different than sympathy?
Work?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's start over then. Here we go. I'm going to leave it on small screen though, guys, because I don't want to lose it.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Isn't that awesome? I absolutely love that. And let me tell you something. Let me stop this here. Hold on. Well, that's loud. So here's something really cool, you guys. I don't know. I mean, many of you are probably mothers. I'm going to put my headphones back in. Thanks for that tip, whoever told us that. That was helpful, very helpful. But I have to tell you that there was one time when I was feeling sad. This is about a year ago, I guess. And my son walked over and put his arm around me and he said, wow, Mom, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, that's empathy. I was so excited that my child was able to express empathy. And I think that children are so much more likely to walk over, put their arm around someone and be in their space, right? Because they're vulnerable. Children, they don't seem to have that same fear of vulnerability that we do. And I saw this when I was room mom and I was on the playgrounds and I was volunteered field day in my kids' elementary school. And I don't know, you guys put some in the comments if you're mothers and you've noticed this too, where I think that as they get older, the fear and of vulnerability seems to, it gets bigger as we get older and we start to worry about what other people think of us and things like that. So, you know, really, really encouraging for Brene Brown's work to turn us back around to what we're used to and what we feel comfortable with as human beings, and that's having connection. So with all of that said about the sympathy and empathy thing, I also wanted to say that, you know, and I'm looking at my notes here, is, we have to think about when we're talking to our clients, when we're face to face with them, how are we reacting? Not only in a what we say, but our physical reaction. Are we making that, like I used to have this tendency when I would be listening to clients that I would be like this. My concentration face was this, thus the wrinkle, if you guys can see it. I was always like this, and then I realized, I thought, that doesn't look like a very empathetic face, right? And of course you're not going to smile and whatnot. But for me, adding into that, it was hard for me to break that habit. And sometimes I still do it, but was to when appropriate, reach out and put my hand on the client's arm, or maybe just touch their arm for a second, or something like that showed that connection with them as well. So even as important as what we're saying to our clients is how we're physically reacting to them. So I've been told some pretty shocking things in my time, because I've been exposed to some, when I've worked with couples before, you'd be surprised at what people will share in front of you with each other about their unhappiness or things that they've been through. And even trying to maintain that neutral face and not go into the, oh my gosh, oh, did he just say that to her? That reaction can be a game changer for your clients. It's going to be, I don't know if we can trust her. I don't know how she's going to react to that. So practicing how you react physically is pretty important. Okay. It's not just about the words we say. Now, for many of you who don't do the in-person sessions, it's just as important in this situation right here. Like I'm watching all of you right now. You're seeing my expressions and the way that I'm talking and the way that I'm looking. So think about all of you being gone, right? And it's just me and Tracy, or it's me and Kathy. It's more intimate, right? We're going into a one-on-one, more intimate situation where that person is looking almost for some sort of, I think, acceptance or partnership, or just, that connection that she was talking about, so that they feel more able to share everything that they're going through. Now, as a reminder, many people, I don't know a lot of names on here, but many of you guys have not looked at the intake form yet, right? So the intake form, I always return to it. It is lengthy. It is high mileage. It asks a lot of hard questions so that you don't have to get into that, that uncomfortable space of asking about these personal relationships, or asking if someone's got depression or whatever. I think it really lends, a good eye to things before so you can see who you're dealing with. I think one of the questions on there was, do you consider yourself an emotional person? Am I right, Kathy? Do you remember that question? Do you consider yourself an emotional person? Do you get defensive? How do you handle criticism? Those kinds of things. So that you kind of know what you're walking into with those people. I think that's a key to handling emotions for clients as well, is know what kind of a person you're dealing with. Now, some people say you should get into that personality quiz. Have your clients take a personality quiz. I'm sorry, but I don't even remember what personality I am besides AAA. I don't know. And so I'm not going to spend an hour learning about their EMFRDJ, whatever, right? I mean, I think that's just overkill. We're not psychiatrists. We don't have to know, if the color blue makes them sad. Like, we just want to know, how, what kind of a person we're talking to. So what I did also, and I'm going to do the business announcement stuff at the end here. I'm super excited too, because I got a message this morning. I'm like, what? Is that really the person I think it is messaging me that I'm going to try to bring to you guys? I think you'll be excited about. But what I did was I went through some of my client files, and I pulled out a little stack here of some of my clients that I've worked with that had some different types of emotional things going on. So I'm going to walk you guys through a couple of those things. But I also want to say before I get into these, I also want to say one thing about silence as well. That quiet space where there's some uncomfortable silence when you're talking to clients. How comfortable are you with that? Are you a person, when someone's crying, that rushes in to fill the space with words? Okay. So I keep coming up with the crying thing because it's rare that I have ever had a client that hasn't had a breakdown of some sort. I don't think I've had maybe 3 clients in all of my time that hasn't cried. And my husband always used to say, he'd give me a hard time. He's like, God, what kind of a coach are you? Everybody starts crying every time you work with them. And I said, I'm a good one, because they feel open to do it, right? They feel comfortable. So it was kind of an ongoing joke with us, but it's absolutely true. And then most of the time when they start to cry, they'll say, I don't know why I'm crying. Right? That's always, it's kind of one of those cover up things too, because they're afraid of that vulnerability. So they cover it up with, I don't know why this is happening. Right? I know I've done it. I mean, I love therapy. Everybody knows me. I think I'm a big believer in therapy. And anytime that I've had a therapy session where I start to cry, I automatically say, I don't know why I'm crying. Right? I mean, it just comes out. So it has happened so many times with my clients. And I say, it doesn't matter why, and it's okay that you are. Right? So you just leave that door open for them, sit with them, let them feel their feelings. And then when they're ready, they'll start talking again. So if you're a person that is uncomfortable with that, time to get comfortable with it, because the deeper you go on the questions that are difficult, the more that's bound to happen, right? I mean, I think has anybody worked with clients that they just cry almost all the time? They have it. Yeah, Tracy's nodding. She gets it, I'm sure. Okay, so, all right. So I have a client here, and bless her heart, I remember her, and I remember her very well because she had a lot going on. Here's when it was my old logo. There's my old logo, Mindful Health and Wellness. That's how old this is. Isn't that funny? But her name was Corey, and I actually, I think she might have even been a health coach, if I'm not mistaken. This is quite some time ago. But she was 36 years old. She had Sjögren's syndrome, which was in remission, hypothyroidism, history of eating disorders, preeclampsia during pregnancy, vasculitis, gluten sensitivity, and she was taking Xanax with insomnia, racing heart, noise in ears, etc. Right away, I knew I was dealing with somebody that had some emotional instability, because if you've got to take a Xanax to go to bed, there's more than likely that underlying anxiety throughout your day, even if you're a highly functioning individual, that there's some emotional instability, something's going on, right? And so as I started reading through here, and she was very thorough, and I love it. I love that when people do this. But she, let me show you, and this was the old intake form. It was only like 7 pages long, but look how thorough she was, right? This was awesome for me. She filled it out in great detail. But she said, here's what she would say about how her life was in the moment. It changes throughout the day. On a good day, joyful, happy, blessed, loved, amazed. On a bad day or moment, scared, frustrated, feel as if I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm overwhelmed by candida, thyroid problems, low immune function, brain fog, memory loss. And then she said, I tried therapy. I'm a big believer, but it never worked for me. I have lots of awareness. That alone never fixed anything. I'm hypersensitive, so this road has always led to more problems. I'm not sure I've ever taken a traditional medication where there hasn't been a consequence. She's talking about taking medication for her anxiety and things like that. So right away, I knew, I'm like, okay, I am going to be in a listening space for this person, right? A really, really big listening space, because if her story in writing was like this lengthy, I could only imagine what the phone call was going to be like, because this was a phone call client. She was from Memphis, I think. Anyway, we got on the call, and right here, I do cry easily, right? TV shows, books, etc. Everything can make me cry, but I don't take things personally. So right there, I was like, all right, so I'm setting myself up, gave myself an additional 30 minutes for this call with this client, which, I recommend. I know that the training for working with clients that I teach is about an hour and 15 minutes. But this is one of the instances where I've talked in training before about when you have someone that's really emotional or high need, set aside that time. Just, it's just worth it. It's worth it. It's part of giving. It's part of what we should be doing. But I remember when we started having the conversation, I started with the fact that in the past, she says here, I abused my body by over-exercising, purging, being too regimented with food choices. I have a tendency to go to extremes, but only right now, currently not eating sugar. But if I do, then I feel like I need it all the time. And she went on and on about it. So I immediately took her to the past. And I said to her, and this is where the emotional support also comes in, and also trying to lead you in a way of teaching you how to dig without being a doctor or a counselor, right? I would say to her, you said in the past you abused your body by doing this, this, and this. So tell me where that came from. Tell me a little bit about when you feel like the very first time you remember doing this type of behavior. Tell me what your life looked like at that time. So like these are leading questions, right? So when she was talking, she started to cry. It had something to do with her mother and not being good enough for her mom and always feeling like she was being abused, mentally, physically, all of these things. And it carried into her adult life. So, we're looking at 20 years of this poor girl feeling like she's not good enough. So by the way that I emotionally supported her during the conversation, because I certainly can't sit there and tell her, your mom's a complete bitch, horrible, right? Like that would be bad, because we don't want to tell her. We don't want to say something like that. We don't know where she is with her mother. in my mind, I might have been thinking that, but then I also think, well, she was doing the best that she could, right? So, you know, you have a dialogue going on in your mind when you're working with these types of clients. So what I did with this client and is to tell her, you know, so let's talk a little bit about today. Let's talk about today. Now I know your story from before. Tell me the good things you think about yourself today. So it's a lot of questions of leading someone into getting present in their lives and emotionally supporting them by leading them into a positive direction. And I don't mean like you should say a positive affirmation every day. It's simply opening the door for them to see other pieces of themselves that are no longer related to the person that they were that created this problem. Does that all make sense to you guys? Right? So emotionally supporting her. It's really hard to say, you know, that each person, like I was saying, each person needs the same thing because they don't. It's always going to come to you within the session of what somebody needs because everyone is so different. But the foundational piece of working with people with emotions is to simply not step into that counselor role and tell them what they should do, but lead them in a way that takes them out of that dark place into a lighter space of where they are today by showing them that hope piece, right? So just by saying that to them, you know, it sounds like, you know, you went through some really hard times, but tell me what's good about your life today. Let's talk about something on the other side of it. Can kind of open the door for hope for them. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? Okay. All right. So hold on a minute. I want to go down here. I want to make sure there's no questions or anything. Yeah. And Tracy's saying childhood psychologists know empathy must be taught. Absolutely it is. It has to be taught in the home. It has to be practiced in the home. It has to be something that children see for sure. I mean, my son never saw it. My husband didn't know how to express empathy. He was raised without it, 100% raised. Can you imagine this? Without knowing how to be empathetic to another human being. And then, you know, comes into a marriage and has a family and a child and has no idea how to show empathy to his family. And so that's very dangerous. So I was very proud of my son for knowing empathy. And he learned that from me because, you know, I was practicing that. And so Claudia's asking how you can do this in group programs. So the great thing about group programs, I think, when it comes to emotional support is that once one person says, you know, that they've been down that road of emotional eating, another person's going to go, oh my gosh, me too. The empathy automatically takes on a life of its own. It truly does. Because then you're going to have other people that are like, they start to say, oh, I've been there. Or when I was in college, I used to binge and purge. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to do that because I felt so bad about myself. A dialogue starts to happen in group programs. So what is your job as a facilitator of a group program? The job as a facilitator is to connect those people in a way that doesn't make you the person telling them what's happening with them. Does that make sense? Claudia, I want you to unmute for a second so I can, because you're the one that brought this topic to light and brought it to us, which I'm so glad that you did. But are you on a phone or are you on your computer, Claudia?
Do you hear me?
Yep, I hear you. So because you're the person that brought this to our attention, I want you to kind of tell me what brought this up as a topic for you.
Yeah, like I'm kind of, you know me, I'm always kind of evolving my business, and you know that I don't love one-on-one coaching as much as I've been enjoying the group programs. But I also am seeing a pattern with people that I work with. Like I tend to attract women in their 30s and 40s. A lot of them are young, single. Some of them don't have children, and a lot of I guess they resonate with me because that's me. That's who I am.
Yeah.
You know, we all feel the pressure of society to have children, to get married, all that crap that I struggle with all the time. And it can cause a lot of stress. And, you know, there's a lot of emotional stuff that goes on with that, and guilt and whatnot. And I feel that some women, they don't want to talk about it. But, you know, and what happens is not that they don't want to talk about it, but it's like they throw themselves into their work. And they're very giving when it comes to volunteering and doing all this stuff for others, but they're not taking care of themselves. Okay. So, you know, I just finished a group program, and it was only 2 women. It was kind of like a beta, and I'm still tweaking it because I want to get more into this aspect of it, like why women are struggling with self-care and with all the stress, and how to really find time to prioritize, you know, time for themselves and whatnot. But and I had brought up a couple of questions, just kind of testing the waters to see if they would be more open to sharing. And these women were friends beforehand, so they already knew each other. So they were a little open, but they still weren't that open. So I kind of treaded lightly, but I would love to get to a point where I could make them feel more comfortable about sharing. And I don't know if it's, am I supposed to share more of me? And it's like, I don't want to talk too much about myself. So
yeah. So you're trying to figure out what's the right way to handle this, where you're not using your stuff to take over the group or take over the session. So are you open to sharing your life and your story? Do you feel comfortable and comfortable with vulnerability, talking to people about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So are you in a place where you are okay. So you just said, let's back up for a minute, because you just said a few minutes ago that you were struggling with the same types of pressures of when you're going to have kids and and so how are you handling those things?
not that great. My stress level is pretty high.
Okay.
But I mean, that's also things that like I bring on myself. And, I've noticed that I could really kind of ruminate with certain things. Like if somebody makes a comment, I get like pissed off, or, I feel guilty. Like for instance, we have certain family members who are like, oh, I want a grandkid. And these are people that I really care about. So there's like that sense of guilt that I feel.
Okay.
But like, I think what I've been trying to implement is just more like taking care of myself and stop obsessing over the things that people say, and that it's a reflection of them and it's not me. And it's a lot of mindset work that I've been doing on myself.
Okay. So you just brought up 2 points that it might be good for you to, without giving your whole story away or making it about you, but pulling out the questions out of your clients, would be something like, so even if you add it into a questionnaire or you just bring it into conversation during your sessions, is to say something like, do you ever feel guilty that everyone else is expecting these things of you, but that's not where you are in your life? Do you ever feel like if you don't get it just perfect, other people aren't going to be happy? Like the things that you feel for yourself are great questions to bring into your clients, because more than likely they're dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So you're saying, do you ever, and you just said a minute ago, so I'm going to call you out. You just said that you will literally obsess and ruminate on what people think, and and then whatever. But then you said a few seconds later that you're doing better about, you're saying, I'm telling them that that's them, it's not me, it's them, it's not me. So are you doing enough of that, it's them, it's not me, or are you doing more of the ruminating and obsessing?
Yeah.
Right? So something to think about, like how far are you into, not walking your walk, because it's not about being like, well, I'm walking my walk, so what's your problem? It's not that. It is, these women are bringing a lesson to you. Mm-hmm. They're bringing you what you should be working on, right? And that is not necessarily so much the vulnerability part with your clients, but what about the vulnerability of you with the people in your life? Mm-hmm. Of saying to them, listen, here's where we are. This is how you're making me feel. Yeah. And I really would like to just put a stop to worrying about what you're thinking. And I needed to express myself and put a stop to it so that you don't have to ruminate and think. So that's, you know what I'm saying? So I think anytime I've ever worked with a client, I've thought, what are they showing me about myself? What am I seeing in this person that I need to be considering working on for other clients, working on for my own self, for my own family, and so on? Lord, if I could have back some of the people I help with their marriages, right? I mean, if I'd just been like, well, we're fine. Okay. So maybe that's part of it for you, to be able to open the door for them to be more vulnerable and open and give more of the emotional stuff, is to ask those questions that, that you just express that you're feeling about yourself. You're feeling guilty. You're feeling overwhelmed. You're not finding the balance. So ask them those same questions. Mm-hmm. And make them feel able to relate to you. Does that make sense?
No, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. And so tapping into those own pieces of ourselves, I think, is what brings it out in others. But
I think that's part of like maybe even the struggle of why I'm not that comfortable with it in a group setting or just in general, because I'm still not there. I'm not 100% okay with my decisions and how I handle certain things or how to set boundaries.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So then it's okay not to be, it's a lot to, and honestly, I have some friends and they don't have kids and they're perfectly happy. And it took a lot of aches and pains to get there with their families. Some of the family members just kind of walked away and were like, well, if you're not going to bring me, grandkids, then I don't want anything to do with you. Okay. Oh, well. But it was a painful process for them, but they had to go through the journey of it to figure it all out. So, maybe not so many pieces at one time, you know what I mean? Like, but that's something I would pick, something that is bothering me the absolute most, and I'd work on that first.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of roll with my own personal stuff. Like if it's really bugging you, then you really need to pay attention to that. If it's just kind of niggling at you a little, you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. I'll work on that one later. Right. And I tell you, the communication part for me, and, in marriage, in any relationship, but communication was the biggest thing. It used to eat me up about how bad our communication was. It just chew me up and spit me out, angry, like cause all these problems. And I never addressed it. I never fixed it. I just thought, well, I'll just deal with that later. Well, 15 years later, we all know the story. So pay attention to those strong pieces, that are tapping you, that they're trying to get your attention, because I think that's where your questions can come from to pull it out of your clients too. So let me ask you another question. When you're, have you ever been in a session where someone's crying or they're sad or they're,
I mean, I can't think of any clients that really got that upset. But like I always use my sister as an example, because she's kind of my ideal client. She's, in her late 30s, not married, no children, she's looking for a partner, but she's got a lot of issues from our childhood. And I mean, it's just been such like an eye-opening experience where it takes so long sometimes for certain people to really talk about what's bothering them and to, I don't know, I guess get to a point where they can be vulnerable with other people. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No, it's true. I mean, it's a good point. And that leads me into one of my notes here that I was going to share with you guys is, we just watched that empathy sympathy thing by Brene Brown, and I can't say it enough. It's a life changer for me, was the power of vulnerability. And I've talked about it before. I know it's in my, I've talked about it in training, in my courses. It is absolutely hands down one of the best things you can watch and listen to is the power of vulnerability, and how she talks about how, you may think you're sharing yourself with people, but, once you listen to her, more than likely you're probably not. But I think as coaches, health coaches, and we're tapping into some of the deepest pieces of people, you guys. I mean, we're talking about how many times they poop in a day. I mean, we're talking about whether their husbands like them or not, or if they have, if they're being sabotaged by family members. I mean, we're talking about these deep things. If we don't understand vulnerability at its most basic level, we really never will be truly successful as coaches, as successful as we should be. And I'm not talking about the 6-figure junk. I'm talking about successful we're changing lives and we're making a living doing it, right? So is that helpful at all, Claudia, to talk through that?
No, it is. But also, when I think back of like some of the people who came to me for weight loss, like that was always a struggle for me. And I used to get frustrated because I felt like I wasn't getting through to them and they wouldn't make these simple changes. And I'm like, it's so much more than the weight. And I know they had a lot of other things going on that I didn't push far enough, or maybe they didn't feel, that they had that space with me to really kind of, dig deeper. But yeah. And I don't want to be the coach that shies away from people like that, because I do want to help,
Yeah.
And of course, that's why I got into this.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm doing it the right way.
Right. So here's another tip too. And it can be kind of hard to find somebody that's close to you, but find somebody, a friend, and most of the time, unless you can handle real criticism from someone that's in your family, but get some real input about how they feel you are as an emotional supporter, as a person, as a friend, as, how are you as that person? And I have a friend, and that bless her heart, she's as country as they come. She is country as cornbread, and she's got this really strong accent, and she has been my best friend for 20 something years. And she one day said to me, we were at an event, and I was trying to be helpful and supportive and all this, and she turned around, she goes, "You just so damn bossy." Like that. I was like, what did you just say? And it hurt my feelings, right?
Yeah.
It hurt my feelings because she's my best friend, she's telling me I'm bossy. Well, later on that day, I actually felt like this is a moment where I need to learn from this, right? I'm coaching people, I'm helping people, and someone's telling me something about myself that may be harming my business or my family. So I asked her, I said, "What did you mean by that?" And she goes, "Now, I know you mean well, but damn," she said, "sometimes you just tell people what to do." And I said, okay, how can I approach you in a different way? And she said, just be more gentle with your approach. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You're right. And that changed things for me in my coaching business as well. Because if I was excited about changing something for someone, it came across that way. I'd be like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm so excited because I know the only thing you have to do is this. Instead, that person needed to be talked to like, I know this sounds like it might be hard, okay? But just bear with me because I have something I want to share with you that may make a big difference to you, right? So ask someone else, maybe your sister's a good one. How do I support you emotionally? How do I lift you up when you're down? Like, I get an honest opinion about someone close to you, and this is for everybody. How do you see me? And let's get some honest opinions about who we really are emotionally, who we really are as a coach or a person, a friend, etc. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm starting to sound like my husband. He always says, does that make sense? I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. I'm stupid. I mean, some of the most basic things, can you shut the door? The air conditioner's on. Does that make sense? I'm like, no. I mean, and now we have a laugh about it because he's like, you're right. I say that all the time. I'm like, now I've picked it up. So anyway.
No, that's good. No, I mean, it is a really good practice though. I mean, it's kind of hard to ask a family member versus like a stranger because of course you're going to be like, I'm going to probably say certain things to my sister that I'm not going to say to like a client.
Right.
One, I'm biased. And of course I know her story. I know her whole background and we grew up in the same, household, but, I've been told like I'm a good listener and whatnot, but I do know that I probably am not as like warm as people. And I know for her, like she's somebody who really wants attention and affection and I come off as be a little standoffish. So I'm going to ask that.
So you just answered your own question. You don't even need to involve a friend. If you feel like you can be standoffish or a little colder or not as warm, then how can you become that person? And even if you can't change that part of your personality, a way to kind of dial back on that is just to practice more active listening and silence when you're in that space with someone, Yeah. I mean, I have become that kind of person. I literally, we were in the elevator at the Bass Pro Pyramid in Memphis this week, yesterday, actually, no, the day before yesterday. And there was a man, and I don't know if anybody ever lives in Memphis or has ever been there, but the Bass Pro Pyramid goes really, really high and you're in an elevator and it's all glass around you. So people who have height problems can be really scared, right? And so we were in the elevator and my son and his friend and my husband, it was tight. And my son's friend started to get crowded in by this man. And he didn't mean it, but he was kind of like leaning up against the glass. Like his name is Enos. Anyway, he's back up against the glass. And this man was shuffling backwards with his head down. And I was like, excuse me. And this man goes, I'm sorry, he's struggling. Well, it was a special needs man, And so I put my hand on his back and I said, you're okay. We're right here. Just automatically felt this need to tell him, you're surrounded by people. You're not dangling in the air over a city, It has started to be more natural for me without even thinking about it. Like even going up to a homeless person and giving them some money and asking if they're okay. I always put my hand on someone. So it's not going to be that comfortable for everyone to be that person, but sometimes just even being quiet and being in that space is good enough. So don't try to force yourself into those places, that you're not comfortable. Just stay out of the colder places and stay in the warmer places that are good for you, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to talk about since you're the one that brought this great subject to light?
Okay. For now.
Okay. Let me look at some of the comments over here. Let's see here. All right. Stephanie says, I listened to Wayne Dyer this morning. He said something about not allowing others to control how you feel. If you let them alter how you feel, you're saying that what they feel is more important than how you feel about you. Yes. That is one of my notes right here. On my little thing here is how when we are having a day, let's just say we're having a bad day, okay? And our client is having a worse day. We're both having bad days. One of the things, this kind of relates to what you're saying, is not letting that person's bad day make your day worse. Or if you're having a good day, not letting that client's day make your day bad or whatever. In other words, not absorbing the energy of them and showing them your emotions, staying in your own space, staying in your own place, your own world when you're with your clients, because it can be easy to leach out that negativity or that bad day that you're having and them to feel it. So I love that. I love Wayne Dyer anyway, but gosh, I've been following him forever. I hate that he passed away, but she's saying, you're saying that what they feel about you is more important about how you feel about you. And I agree with that. So if you haven't read the comment, that's a great comment, Stephanie. Yeah, and Mary Louise is saying, yeah, use your stuff as high mileage questions for others. I think that's really helpful. I got what you meant, Stephanie. She's talking about how her brain and fingers aren't coordinating, but I understand it. Paying attention to strong feelings is absolutely a key. Tracy, tell me what you mean when you say I talk about baggage first. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey there.
Hey.
One of the things I do with clients, especially with one-on-ones, is I'll have them sit down, come in, sit down. I let them know that this is a private space. Nothing that we talk about leaves this space, but it's also an open space for sharing, and that let's unpack baggage right away so that we know what to trash and what to keep that we'll learn from.
Okay.
So, and I think that baggage is a lot of issue that women have when it comes to weight and eating and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that a lot of it goes back to baggage. And then I always keep Kleenexes right there.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think that, when they do the intake form is also a way to, because that has all of that stuff on it too. You're unpacking your whole life on that form.
Right.
But bringing it into a conversation like that is, it can just bring the tears ahead. And it's in my course, I have a little thing in there that says always carry tissues too. I'm the same way. I'm like, I always have a little pack of travel tissues with me. Yeah. Good point. Okay. So Carmen, do you ever do an exit interview with clients? Yes, that you should have the file or the templates for that. There's 4 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, and then the exit interview. Yep. Yeah. Kathy, I could not control the calling in. I didn't know what was going on there. Kate is saying, I'm just starting to learn to turn my thoughts around from statements to questions to help lead clients in their own conclusions rather than behaving like the one who knows it all. I love that comment, because even if we know something is going to be powerful and helpful for someone in an emotional state or whatever they're going through, we think, I know that Kelly Brogan can help with depression. I just know you should read that book, right? If we have that knowledge in our minds, to throw that kind of information at somebody can make it seem like we know it all. Like we know this is going to fix you, when really we don't. What if Kelly Brogan's book on depression makes it worse for somebody, right? Acting like someone that knows that everything we suggest is going to be a fix can be a dangerous position to be in. I love that comment, Kate. Leading clients to their own conclusions, which also kind of leads us into the instincts and intuition part of working with emotional clients too, is you can usually tap into what's happening and how, with somebody, if you just kind of pay attention to your instincts with them, which I don't think is happening enough. I think coaches are really, really excited to help people, and sometimes we can let that enthusiasm run people over. So when we do have extra emotional clients, we do have to remember that we need to slow down the pace of what we're doing. We need to sit back a little bit. We need to give them that extra time and space to work through things. So I want to bring up I've got another client here that I wanted to talk to you guys about real quick. Hold on a minute, because I'm really excited for her also, because I'll tell you the outcome in just a moment. Hang on a minute. Got to find it. Okay. Is this her? Yes. All right. So this chick had 15 pages of labs. I got all her labs right here, her intake form. And basically the briefing I got from her was when we got together, we started talking about her issues. 29 years old. Moved to Clarksville 2 years prior. Her grandmother died. Her husband was tested positive for cancer, was going through chemo. She didn't like living here. You're not the only one that went through that when you got here. Her name is Erin. She spent 3 years trying to conceive. She's overwhelmed. Her tests show Hashimoto's, autoimmunity, hypothyroidism, gut dysfunction. I mean, just a mess. And part of it was, for me, helping her and coaching her was to start with stress. When I brought up the stress, first I said to her, this is a couple years ago too, so I really didn't even have the 7 pieces dialed in then. I was just focusing on, what was all of these things were caused by stress, in my opinion, at the time. So I asked her, she came to me because she was having infertility, which I'm not a hormone person that's not my niche, so to speak. But I would also said, I can help you with anything. I can lead you in the right direction with anything. But I found out that that she was keeping all of these feelings about her husband's cancer and the inadequacy of infertility, all of these emotions that she was going through in relationship to these problems. She didn't talk to anyone about them until she came to me. And so her parents didn't know how sad she was, right? All they wanted was a grandchild. And she's like, hello, I'm trying, right? Like, we've been trying for 3 years. What do you think we're not, we're not sitting around doing nothing here. She had told them that, but yet they kept pressuring her. So the buildup was there. Then her husband had the diagnosis of cancer. So then she felt like she couldn't talk to him because, he's got cancer. And all she's trying to do is get pregnant in her mind. So she was sad about that. She didn't like living here. She was sad about that. Like, this girl had so much stress because she didn't have an outlet for any of those emotions. And so literally I became her outlet. I became the person that I just simply allowed her to unload. She'd already had all the labs done. She knew her cortisol was up. She knew she had a Hashimoto. She knew her thyroid was slow. All I had to do was be that person that could receive the information, gently lead her with the right steps on how to kind of get control of some of these issues by starting with stress first, because that's number one, going to inhibit anyone from getting pregnant or anything else going on in their lives. And just kind of let her take a deep breath and sit back, right? And so I found out this weekend she's pregnant. She's about to have her baby. I was so excited. It came up on Facebook. She's ginormous. And I sent her a message. I'm like, hello, what, are you kidding me? And she's like, I know. She said, I lost the original email because it was back when I was mindfulness and health. And she imagined, she has gone through a lot, but she's pregnant. Her husband's cancer free. They're about to have their baby. Her life has turned around completely. But she really didn't need a whole lot from me. She's already doing so much of this work already. She came to me with labs from Genova. And many times coaches will say, well, what can I do for someone that's already done the labs and they know about the thyroid and all of that? Sometimes all you have to do is just be on the receiving end of their stuff, right? Help them to relax about it. Help them to maybe put things in priority steps and just gently support them through the process. So just because someone has done all of this work, don't turn them away, right? They're coming to you for a reason. I had a coach last week say, I don't think I can help her. She's already done everything. Like, well, she's coming to you because obviously she hasn't done everything. So maybe the only piece that's missing there is that emotional support, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Yeah. Yep. Build the bridge. That's right. We are connecting our clients with people out there that are skilled at dealing with things like bipolar and depression and things that we really need to stay away from, the diagnostician, position and things like that. And for me, I've told this story 1,000 times about my bipolar client. She's my nightmare because I didn't know she was bipolar. That's why I added that into the intake form after I worked with her. I had no idea. I thought it was just thyroid and weight we were working on, and she lost weight and she, felt better. Everything was going along. And then she dropped off the face of the earth. And I had found out that she took it upon herself to go off her medication, which threw her into a bipolar episode that kept her, she was literally in bed for 2 months. And when I reached out, I'm like, I've been worried about you. Where have you been? And she was like, well, I know you told me not to go off my medication without talking to my doctor, but I did anyway because I was feeling so good. And it just threw me into a bipolar episode. So, I added that into the intake form. Are you working with a mental health professional if you've been diagnosed with, any mental health problem? Really helps us to stay out of that space. Again, I know I keep using the word space, but it's true. We never want to act like that, but then we also don't want to turn people away that have mental health issues either. There is a safe way to deal with those people and to work with them too. So are there any other conversations about emotional support and things like that? I think, just starting with the topic of vulnerability is a good place to begin. Just as a coach, as a person in general, as a spouse, as a mother, a daughter, anything. You're a human being. And, for all human beings, we need to be understanding what it means to be vulnerable with each other. So this was something I struggled with really hard. It was really hard for me for a very long time. And it's one of the reasons why I always say you don't have to be in perfect health to help people, because I used to think the same thing. When I first started coaching, I'm like, I have Hashimoto's, who am I? I have chronic pain and Hashimoto's. Who am I to help others? I spent my first year of that, doing that back in 2009, thinking, I was some sort of a fraud because I wasn't in perfect health. And, I was a great weight. I didn't look sick, but inside I felt bad. I mean, all this stuff. So I struggled with that vulnerability part, letting people see that I had pain every day. I would go in and I'd personal train for like 5 hours. I mean, I could do like 20 pull-ups, you guys. I was strong, but I would leave there and I'd be like, oh, like I would never let anyone know that I had pain. I would never let anyone know that I was really suffering. I had horrible gas. I mean, oh my gosh, the stuff that I've uncovered in my life, but I never wanted to let anybody know that, right? I started getting the more I opened up, the more I shared, the more clients I got. It hands down. It's what happened. So I just really encourage you to learn more about vulnerability. Learn about also, about the empathy, sympathy, shame, all of those connections. It all goes hand in hand. And we're all just people. We're human beings having a human experience. So nobody's any better or different than anyone else, period. And let me tell you also, I want to say this too, because someone asked me, I got a message from someone the other day and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you get your teeth so white from those pictures, right? Okay, so first of all, my teeth are not white. They're not white. They're fine, but they're not white. But I have a master photographer with light because I will not let her touch up wrinkles or anything. I'm like, don't whiten my teeth. Don't touch up my wrinkles. Don't touch anything. Don't make me look like a non-person, but you can do whatever you want with your lights. So that's what she did. So I don't normally look like that in real life. And the people that you're seeing out there that are all fancy pants and all of that business, I was sweating my ass off in those pants. I was sitting there with 3 dogs who one of them doesn't like the other one. So I was like, if you see my profile, I'm smiling and I look like all pulled together. I was dripping sweat and trying to get the basset not to bite the dachshund who was whining the whole time. So there's nothing beautiful about those types of photo shoots. And all of the fancy people you guys are seeing out there that have made it as health coaches or they're selling to you, they're going through the same shit too, but they're not telling you. Okay, so I said ass and shit twice. I'm sorry. That makes it more than once. Okay. Anyway. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So let me just make sure that we don't have any other questions. Oh, okay. Let me make announcements real quick for the business stuff. Yay. Okay. So remember when I asked you guys about the what you guys were struggling with, and Claudia said, I think we can all agree we need to talk about lists and all of that, right? I mean, of course we do. That's not like, I'm not the master business person. I fully admit that. That's why I go out and find people for you. That's why in my course, I bring people in there. That's why I am bringing you some people. Okay. I have calls set up with 4 different people right now to talk to them about coming to you guys. So Patty Patak is one. She is a master businesswoman. And I'm going to give you dates. I have to talk to them first and see if they're able to spend some time with us. This is me trying to get them to understand what I do and why it's important that they come to you. I've got one with April Lewis, who has made a business out of being an affiliate for people. And everyone's talking about passive income, right? How do I make passive income while I build my coaching business? One way you can make a good income is being an affiliate for people. So I'm gonna talk with April Lewis about this. About how, if she would be willing to come on and do like a webinar with you guys to teach you how to affiliate and make passive money, where you're doing nothing but just shooting out some emails and making some cash. Because I do that, but I don't have time to tell you how to do it. And I'm not the expert. So I'm going to bring you someone that is, if she has time. The other person I'm bringing to you is Amy from wellpreneur.com. Do you guys know Amy? Some of you at wellpreneur.com. So she and I have a call set up in June the 13th, I think, to talk about how I can get her to help you guys, because she is in the health and wellness space. Now, all of these people are in the business space, but she's from the health and wellness space and intimately understands the problems that health coaches are having today. The other person that I'm excited about them all, don't get me wrong, but I was like blown away that I got a message from is Diane Sanfilippo from Balance Bites. Yeah, right. I knew that would get that one going. So she and I've sent a message to her person, her assistant, because she runs a business, about how to build a badass business, right? And so she and I are going to have a conversation probably mid-June when her schedule opens up, and so does mine. We're going to have a talk about how maybe she can talk to you guys. Oh, I can have her on a webinar, and she can have a conversation, do a presentation, maybe we can, work something out. Maybe she'll be willing to offer some freebies, that kind of thing. But if you know Diane Sanfilippo and you know balancebites.com and been listening to them for years, they've got it down. She and Liz Wolfe both are running very successful businesses in the wellness space. I feel like they're both pretty darn real. If you've listened to their podcasts at all, they are no BS people. They don't support, fakery, so to speak. So I think that those 4 people, if I network properly for you guys, then I can get you some business help. That is my goal. And that's what I'm going to try to bring to you, because, we can do the conversation all day long about how to coach clients. And I think it's just as important to learn the art of coaching, but we got to have the business piece down as well. So let me type in the first name here. I met Patty at Mindshare with JJ Virgin. She's awesome. She's just a really nice lady. And April Lewis. Let me see if I can, I won't pull it up. It'll take too long for me to find it. And then, wellpreneur.com. Oops. Preneur. I can't spell. And then Diane, and she's known as Diane Michelle right now. I think she got married or something changed. So, but Sanfilippo, Balance Bites. So those are the 4 people I'm networking and working with, you guys, trying to do what I can to get you some business help. So that you don't, and as you know, I mean, my goal is that you don't have to go out and, take a $5,000 course on business, because I think if we pay attention and we're pulling information in from that works for our businesses from everyone that we're learning from, because not every single thing these people say are going to be what you need. But if they have a nugget from here and here and here, that's going to help you build your business. That's the important piece, right? Okay. Any other questions, you guys? Nothing? Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we kept it at an hour. That's unusual. I was able to contain myself. Usually I just can't stop talking. So, all right. I have some stuff coming on the schedule. As soon as I get these guys in, by the way, let me just say this. When I get these guys solidified that they're able to help, or that because they are very busy people, as you all know, I mean, asking them to spend an hour is a big deal. Like for Diane Sanfilippo to step on for an hour with us from her business is a big deal. So I'm going to do everything I can for all of them to just say, listen, we really appreciate it. And so when I get some confirmations, I will put them in as events. I've decided to stop creating a schedule on my, and putting it in under files, because it's so time consuming when I can just create a simple event for you guys. So if you want to know what's going on and what's coming up, go to the events page and take a look there, and I will keep it up to date. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody. And thanks Claudia for this great topic. And if anybody wants, to bring anything else to it, it is an ongoing topic we should all be, very familiar with. I'm happy to talk about it again. So have a great rest of the day. See you guys later.